Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be doing kind of a continuation of my most anticipated books of 2022. If you've been following along on the channel for a little while, you will know that I put out my most anticipated releases video at the end of 2021. And just because of the way that the publishing industry works and the way that books get hyped up and talked about, most of the books that made it onto that list were only from the first half of 2022. But now that we have passed through the first half of 2022, there are obviously lots of books that I'm still looking forward to and still want to read. So this is going to be a list of the pre-orders that I have made for 2022. Not necessarily all of the new releases that I will be reading, because I'm sure there will be new releases that come out that I either haven't heard of or that I'm just going to grab from the library. But these are the ones that I absolutely wanted to own and have put the effort into pre-ordering and will read probably pretty close to the release date. And I'm going to go through them in chronological order. I hope there might be a couple that are out of sequence because I was trying to write this down as I was going through, but I may have messed up a couple, but I will do my best. And the very first one is the third volume of Heaven Official's Blessing. So this is a series by the Chinese author MXTX. I have started her other two series, Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation and Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. This Heaven Official's Blessing is her longest series, and it is the only one that I have not started yet. Only because I'm reading the other two, and I know that this one is a bit lengthier, so it's going to take more time for the volumes to get translated, and I don't want to have all three of them up in the air at the same time. So I thought I would save this one, and then I will have her longest series ready for me when I complete the other two. But I'm happy to pre-order these and support the author and also the translators, who obviously have put in a lot of hard work for getting these books onto the English market. So I'm always happy to own these, as I think the production value is really high. They're beautifully illustrated, the covers are always really nice, and I'm happy to have them sitting on my shelf until I am ready to pick up the series. Similarly, my second pre-order for the second half of 2022 is Volume 3 of Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. So this is another one of the series by MXTX that I actually have started, and this is what's called a transmigration fantasy. So basically it is about a character from our world that gets sucked into an alternate past world, and that character has taken over the body of one of the main characters and is now trying to live and converse and settle into that world without letting it be known that he doesn't belong there. And it's really funny. I've had a great time reading it so far, and I'm looking forward to the third volume being released so I can see the beautiful artwork that is inside. The third book that was on my pre-order list is one that was single-handedly put on there by Patrick, and I'm sure that there are many people on BookTube who can say that lots of the books that end up on their pre-order list or on their purchase list come from Patrick and his reviews. But this one is The First Binding. So Patrick did a really early review of this, and initially when I watched his review, I guess like I may have zoned it out or something, but I didn't realize that the release date was so far in the future. So I was pumped to pick it up and read it, and then I was like, oh, never mind. I have to wait several months before I can read this book. But Patrick gave this a glowing review. He likened it to Kingkiller Chronicles, which is one of my favorite series, said that the prose was gorgeous, that the story was exciting, and that this would be an author to watch for sure. So based on those words, that high praise from Patrick, I just went ahead and pre-ordered it. I honestly don't know what the setup is. I know that he compared it to Kingkiller Chronicles, so I'm assuming there's some sort of framed narrative, probably a coming-of-age element to this story, but regardless, it sounded like something that I would really love. I really enjoyed Patrick's review of it, and so I popped it on the pre-order list, and I will try to get around to reading this one pretty quickly after its release date. Number 4 is Babel by R.F. Kuang. Now, this is another one that Patrick really hyped up and that he really loved. It was not Patrick's review that got me to pre-order this one. I have been looking forward to reading Babel ever since I finished The Poppy War and I heard that R.F. Kuang was publishing another series. Just because I think that her writing progressed she progressed in her skill as an author as she published the Poppy War trilogy. And whatever bumps I may have seen in that series, I also feel like R.F. Kuang showed a lot of potential. I really enjoyed her character work in that series, and the topic of Babel, which is translation and magic that is derived from the I think it's from the meaning that is lost during the act of translation. I believe that is the setup for the story. Anyway, it sounds fascinating. It sounds very dark, academic, and super interesting, unlike anything that I have read before. So I am really, really looking forward to this one. Thinking it will probably end up being a buddy read on the channel, because I know there are some people on my Discord server who want to read it and who would be really fun to discuss this with. So I'm thinking that this will probably end up being an official buddy read, and I am really looking forward to reading it. But obviously, once Patrick read it and gave it 5 stars and said that he loved it, it just cemented my desire to pre-order it and made me feel really good about the fact that I will hopefully really like it as well. Coming in after Babel, the 5th book is Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Volume 3. So this, again, is one of MXTX's novels that is being translated into English. This tells the story of 2 young cultivators who are from different cultivation sects, and they form an improbable friendship because they have very different personalities, very different, but very similar values, I think, and that's where the friendship comes from. So it's about their lives in the present and their lives in the past and how those storylines intersect. It's filled with a lot of mystery. There's a lot of death, murder. There's necromancy in there. Like, it's a very, very cool series. I've been having a lot of fun reading it. And obviously, as you can see from this pre-order list, MXTX's novels have kind of taken over my reading schedule in 2022, and I'm really happy to have found them. This brand of Chinese fantasy has been really exciting, feels very fresh from a lot of the typical Western fantasy that I am used to reading, and I'm really happy that they are getting translated, and obviously commend the people who are putting such hard work into bringing these stories to a wider audience. Number 6 is called Dinner in One. It's a cookbook. I didn't know if I was going to put this on here because obviously this is a mostly fantasy channel, but I pre-ordered it, so I decided to pop it on here. I don't know if this has ever come up in like one of those tags that I've put together, but I'm a terrible cook. I almost never cook. For example, my husband brought my daughter to soccer the other night, and I had to cook some hamburger meat. I'm capable of cooking hamburger meat. But my mom called as I was cooking, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Cooking hamburger meat." She was like, "What? Why?" And just like was so aghast at the thought of me cooking something that I was actually a little bit insulted, but it was really funny. And I'm trying to find ways to be better about that. Andrew cooks like 95% of the food that we eat. And I would like to branch out and contribute more in that way. Now, Andrew, you know, he enjoys it. He stays at home with the kids. He's here. I'm not here. He's home at cooking time. So it's not like I'm like, oh, you know, I don't care about contributing to the household. But I would like to be able to cook some more things. And this book, when it popped up on there was a big pre-order sale, and I was like, I'll throw this in the cart. This may end up being an impulsive buy that nothing comes out of. I may cook nothing from this book, but it was called One Pot, right? Yes. Dinner in One. So it's one pot, one pan, one food instrument. I'm embarrassing myself, but these look like easy recipes. These look like something that I could accomplish. And I like accomplishing things. I like my family eating food. I like to eat food, so we'll see what happens. We'll update you in several months about my progress with this cookbook. Number 7 was a book that I pre-ordered for the kids because, again, it popped up during this pre-order sale and it looked really cool. And it's called 5,000, right? Yes, 5,000 Animal Facts. My kids, but my daughter, Juliet especially, are obsessed with animals. They love animals. They love animal facts. They love talking about animals. We watch a lot of animal documentaries. I also really love animals, so I'm glad that they have that interest. But whenever there's a new like National Geographic or whatever kind of kids book about animals, we usually scoop it up, and this one looked really cool, so I'm looking forward to getting it. I'm sure we will read it together. And who knows, we might find some new facts. We have read so many of these books now that it is hard to find a random animal fact that is completely new or completely surprising, but we're going to give it our best go anyway. After that is the book that I have been waiting for, that we should all be waiting for, and that is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. So I've talked about this in many videos. I don't drop everything to read every new release by Stephen King because his writing style is varied. He writes crime fiction, he writes horror, he writes fantasy, But whenever he drops a fantasy book, I will read that on the first day, on the day of release. Now, I pre-ordered this, so it might not actually arrive at my house until a couple of days after release, but whenever it gets here, I will read it, and I'm really excited about it. I also say this in every video where I talk about Fairy Tail, and that is, I'm not even really sure what it's about, because I don't think amongst all of this discussion of the book, I've ever read a synopsis of it. I have no idea what happens. I don't care what happens. I don't need to know what happens. Stephen King wrote it. It's a fantasy book. Hopefully there'll be some Dark Tower tie-ins. Even if there's not, I'm sure I will have a great time reading it, and I hope that it arrives at my house pretty soon after the release date. For some books, they mail them out early, but I think for more popular authors, they have like an embargo and they're not supposed to release them until the actual release date. So this one probably won't end up getting shipped until the release date. So I imagine that it'll probably be a week or so afterwards, which is going to be sad and tough because I know like Mike is going to read it and then he's going to have a review up and I'm going to be dying to watch the review but not wanting to watch the review because I'm not going to want to get anything like even close to a spoiler, and then I'm going to know other people are reading it and it's going to bring me much sadness. But I'm going to resist the urge to buy it on Kindle and in paper copy. I don't know if I will accomplish that goal, but I will try my best, and that is a book that I'm very much looking forward to. After Fairy Tail, we have, a book that I pre-ordered. I'm glad that I'm recording this when nobody else is home because I pre-ordered this for Andrew, and I think I'll probably end up giving it to him as a birthday gift, and that is called The Tao of Drizzt. So this is a book that's all about the character Drizzt Do'Urden, who is the main character in the Dark Elf trilogy. He's one of R.A. Salvatore's most popular characters, and he is my husband's favorite fantasy character. He reads all the Drizzt books. And when I saw that this was coming out later this year, I thought that it would make a great gift for him. If he ends up watching this video and seeing it, I'm sure he'll just take it when it gets in the mail. But if I can keep it a secret from him for long enough, then I will gift it to him for his birthday on the 1st of December. After that is volume 10 of Saga. So Saga has returned after its years-long hiatus, and I am excited. Saga is one of my favorite ongoing graphic novel series, and it's really, really cool. It's kind of like a mashup of Star Wars and Romeo and Juliet. There's a lot of interplanetary fighting, interspecies fighting. There's an interspecies romance. There's all kinds of stuff. It's very weird. It's very out there. It is not for the faint of heart. If you do not like explicit content, then this is not the graphic novel series for you, but I really love it. And most people who read it end up really enjoying it. It's just very high quality. The artwork is great. The story is great. The characters are easy to fall in love with. And like I said, it has been on hiatus for a couple of years, and I'm super excited to get back into it. I had toyed with the idea of following it like issue by issue, but I can't buy the paper issues, and I don't really like reading graphic novels on my computer or my phone or anything like that. So I am just waiting for the print copy to come out, and when it comes out, I will probably reread the last volume, even though big events happened at the end of the last volume and they're not the kinds of things that you would forget. So that part is still pretty bright in my mind. I have not forgotten where we left off, but I probably still will give the last volume a reread just to refresh myself on some of the details that fell a little more under the radar, I guess. After that, we have The Winners by Fredrik Backman. So this is a work of contemporary fiction by a Swedish author, and it is the final book in a trilogy. So many people have probably heard of Fredrik Backman, and then one of his most popular books is the book Beartown, which is about a hockey town in northern Sweden, and there are events that take place in the town that really rock this kind of small community that everyone lives in, and we learn about the repercussions on the people who live there. It is a very high angst, I guess. Like there's a lot of really serious things that happen, but also slice of life type story. So we get the day-to-day living of the people in this town, but because of the stakes, everything feels very tense. Like there's a lot of stuff that's happening, a lot of mature content in this one as well, and it can be kind of sad and triggering for some people. So definitely look into what it's about if you haven't read it and you would like to. But I really loved Beartown. It is one of my favorite contemporary novels for sure. It made me want to read much more Fredrik Backman, and I have enjoyed some of his books and just liked others. So I don't think I'd describe him as one of my favorite authors, but I do really enjoy this series. I personally found book 2 to be a little bit melodramatic. So book 1 is definitely dramatic. There is a lot of drama. There is high stakes. There's a lot of big things that are happening, but it felt grounded and it didn't feel sensationalized. Book 2 felt a little bit like a teen drama to me, but I still was very invested in the characters and I wanted to know what happened. And so I am, of course, still very invested in book 3. I will probably try to reread the first 2 books before I go into this one, because Frederick Bachman likes to integrate these little details into his stories, and he will give you information to point you in one direction, but then will kind of like hook you. It's almost like a red herring. It's not a mystery, but it is information that's given to make you feel a certain way. And then he will flip that over on its head and something different will happen that is unexpected. So I would like to go back and reread the first 2 so that if any of those types of things happen in book 3, that I will be able to point them out and be like, oh, I like that. So I've been looking forward to this book for a really long time, and I'm happy that it is finally being translated and that it will be in my hands before the end of the year. After the winners is the short story Galatea by Madeline Miller. So this is a short story that was published by her, I think it might have even been last year, but is now just getting its Canadian publication. Unless you're a huge Madeline Miller fan, maybe don't pre-order this, because it is like $15 for a short story, which is steep because like there are novellas that I've only paid $2.99 for, but I really love her writing. This book looks beautiful. I want to have it. I want to put it on the shelf with all of my other books by her. And so I spent the money and I pre-ordered the book, but I am looking forward to it. Once I read it, I will be happy to let other people who are more casual fans know how good the story is, or if it's worth purchasing, or if you should just pick it up from your library. But I am looking forward to having that one to add to my collection. And then the final book on the list is Heart of the Sun Warrior, which is in contention for most beautiful book of the year, but it is against the other book in this duology. So this is a duology that both books are being released within the same year. Both books have beautiful covers, and they are about the Chinese myth of the moon goddess. It's actually, as the title would suggest in the first one, the daughter of the moon goddess. And it's about her coming down from the moon, spending time in the celestial kingdom, and about the adventures that she gets into there. The first book wrapped up really well. It could have stood alone, but I really enjoyed it. I like the characters. I like the romance. It was very much a like YA transitioning into adult feeling for the book. Very easy to get through, but I had a great time reading it, and I'm really looking forward to book 2, and it is beautiful. So I had to order the hard copy so that I can set them up together and admire them on my shelf. But that is it. Those are all of the pre-orders for 2022, the second half. If you have pre-ordered any books for the second half of 2022, please let me know. I would really love to hear what books you are most looking forward to reading, and I will see you with another video soon. Bye!